A big-time bombshell for the Aqua and Orange. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, the Miami Dolphins may have just found their next defensive coordinator. Here it is from Aaron Wilson, who covers the NFL. And pay attention to the wording here. We're going to work through all of this. But emerging as Dolphins frontrunner and expected to ultimately land defensive coordinator job. What a semantic salad that is. I'll read it one more time for you. Emerging as Dolphins frontrunner and expected to ultimately land defensive coordinator job is Ravens assistant head coach, defensive line coach Anthony Weaver, per league sources, confirming to KPRC2, interviewed for head coaching jobs with Commanders and Falcons, referring to Anthony Weaver. And obviously, when you look at the production that the Ravens as a team had, and specifically that defense, this makes a lot of sense for the Dolphins to have had him on their radar as a defensive coordinator. And a credit to Weaver was even getting head coaching job interviews with both the Commanders and the Falcons. So it seems that the Dolphins are very, very close to making this official. But again, I'll use the same language as Aaron Wilson, emerging as the front runner to ultimately land the job. And I think if and when the hire happens, the hire makes a lot of sense because of the level of productivity that the Ravens defense had collectively as the staff. Obviously, you saw Mike McDaniel take the head coaching job with the Seahawks, and he was the defensive coordinator for the Ravens, and Weaver an integral part of that defense as well. But hey, that's why you subscribe to Dolphins Today, because when the Dolphins make a move, we're coming to you with all the latest on the Aqua and Orange, and coming to you from Dolphins Today with a video coverage every single angle. That's why you subscribe, and we're getting close to that 56,000 mark. So if and when Weaver becomes the Dolphins defensive coordinator, here is what you need to know. He's been in the NFL since 2012, so obviously a wealth of experience, and most recently the associate head coach for the Baltimore Ravens. I think that's important when you consider the administrative duties that come with being the associate head coach. So obviously having that leadership component to more than just coaching his position, which is also very important. And part of that defensive line run game coordinator for the Ravens, which was a top 10 defense all season long. And they gave, or the Ravens defense, that is, gave up the least amount of touchdowns in the National Football League. So several different ways to evaluate total defensive play, and the Ravens were in the top 10 in just about every single statistical category. Now, with that said, he did help orchestrate and was not the official, or was not the defensive coordinator. Again, that was Mike McDaniel. But anytime you have a coach that's a part of a staff, the way the Ravens have put together that staff, they've been a formula for winning in the National Football League. They've been a model of consistency in the NFL. And anytime you talk Ravens defense, you know you're talking about true game impacting players. And at the forefront of it all, of course, is the coaching staff with Mike McDaniel as the defensive coordinator, now the head coach for the Seattle Seahawks, and Anthony Weaver expected to be the defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins. So grade the hire for me once it becomes official. Do you give it an A, B, C, D, or F? And I'll have my grade for you, but let me know down in the comments. But first, how about a huge shout out to today's presenting sponsor, America's #1 meal delivery service. And here we are. It's 2024. And we're into February. You've already gotten started on your resolutions, but now stick to them with Factor so that you're ready to continue the momentum into the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery service takes the stress out of meal planning, which can be very stressful. It also sets you up for success. So skip the grocery store, skip the prep work, say goodbye to the cooking fatigue, and instead get chef-crafted, fresh, dietitian-approved, never frozen meals delivered right to your door with over 35 meals to choose from each week. And that includes options like keto, calorie smart, veggie, vegan, and so much more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons. And all that said, you're going to have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart those healthy, successful choices. And oh yeah, you can stick to them because factors convenience. That's right. Nobody wants to do the dishes. Nobody wants to spend time at the grocery store. And nobody wants to spend an entire day meal prepping. And that's where Factor comes in. So don't take my word for it. Head to factormeals.com/FinsChat50 and use code FinsChat50 to get 50% off. That's code FinsChat50 at factormeals.com/FinsChat50. And oh yeah, we love you and we care about you here on Dolphins Today. So that link, you guessed it, it goes right in the comments and description of today's video. It's factormeals.com/FinsChat50 for 50% off. Now, you guys know I always insist on 100% transparency, and I'll give that to you. I give this hire a B+ initially, and again, I know it's not official, but all things considered, let's pretend for a moment that he signed on the dotted line. I'm not quite ready to give it an A+ yet because I think there were some candidates out there that had a little bit more of an impressive resume. And not to take anything away from Anthony Weaver's resume, because you look at it here, associate head coach for one of the best organizations in football, a team that was in the AFC Championship game with a top-tier defense. That makes a lot of sense. And in 2021, he was the run game coordinator and obviously some experience with the Texans as well. And like we said, in the NFL for quite some time. But I am a little bit surprised that it wasn't the internal hire with Anthony Campanelli. And not to say that Anthony Campanelli keeps getting the short end of the stick, but that is consecutive years in which the Dolphins have had a defensive coordinator opening, and Anthony Campanelli has interviewed for said opening. As the linebackers coach since 2020, he had an opportunity to interview for the open defensive coordinator spot last year. Obviously didn't get it. That went to Vic Fangio. And then again, the same thing this year. And when you see the way he connects with players, the way he's able to motivate players, as evidenced on Hard Knocks, it just seems like you're going to lose this guy if you don't give him the opportunity to continue to grow, because it's human nature. We all want to grow in our profession. And obviously, Anthony Campanelli has that desire to be the Dolphins defensive coordinator since he's interviewed it for back-to-back years. And so by not hiring him, I wonder what that does to his psyche, to his mentality, if he's still going to be that rah-rah guy motivating the guys. And again, I go back to the player's motivational element of all of this, because you watch that episode of Hard Knocks when he's talking about the universal language of whoop-ass and the type of impact that it had on the team. It just made a lot of sense to add an edge to this Dolphins defense that was certainly lacking in 2023. Now, that's not to say Anthony Weaver can't add that added edge, because obviously you look at the Ravens, they played with an edge defensively, but I thought when it became evident that it wasn't going to be Chris Shula and that it wasn't going to be Leslie Frazier, to me it really was down between the three of Brandon Staley, Anthony Campanelli, or another internal hire of Ryan Slowik. And I'll tell you what, I went 0 for 3 on that, but that's not to say Anthony Weaver won't be a great hire, because, again, I think if he can bottle up what he did in Baltimore and bring it to Miami, that certainly will have a positive impact on the Miami Dolphins defense. So, never miss a moment, and help us out a little bit. Subscribe to the channel, because this is what we do here at Dolphins Today. Something happens, we break it down, we discuss it, we get the pulse of Dolphins Today with our weigh-ins, and that's how the sausage is made at Dolphins Today. So subscribe to the channel. Now, here's something to put my mind at ease, as well as your mind at ease, because obviously John Harbaugh, one of the most well-respected head coaches in the National Football League, the whole family is about as football as it gets. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh taking the Chargers job, but John Harbaugh has been a model of consistency in the National Football League. And when Anthony Weaver was interviewing for head coaching jobs and didn't get the head coaching job with both the Falcons and the Commanders, here's what John Harbaugh had to say. He'll be a great head coach. He didn't get hired this cycle, and a great coaches got hired. But someday, some people are going to look back and say, man, we had a chance to hire Anthony Weaver. I guarantee you that. They're going to see they missed their chance. The next time around, somebody's not going to miss their chance. And interesting to put that obviously in perspective of the context of him applying for head coaching jobs and getting head coaching job interviews, but not landing the head coaching job. But still, to become from a position coach to a defensive coordinator with the Dolphins, that's a huge step up. So to take John Harbaugh's words, I think the Dolphins are going to be that team that says, I'm glad we hired Anthony Weaver. So again, it wasn't the internal hire that I had kind of somehow made up in my mind to expect, but I do believe this is going to be a hire that yields positive dividends for the Miami Dolphins. Let me know what you think of the hire. Go ahead and type Y for yes if you like the hire, and N for no if you don't. Either way, let your voice be heard on Dolphins Today. Let us know down in the comments. Hey, thanks so much for tuning into this Dolphins Today episode about the Dolphins' newest defensive coordinator. Appreciate Jack Lauderay producing today's episode, all the work behind the scenes from the entire Chat Sports crew that goes into any breaking news situation. So greatly appreciated. And hey, we keep you up to date on Dolphins Today because that's what it's all about. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Dolphins Today.